welcome to the session and thanks for joining. I am really happy actually to spend the next sort of 8 minutes with you all. My name is Clare Warburton and I've been working in technology since around 1999, so probably a bit more than 20 years. I'm currently living in Spain and I'm working for Pegasystems, which is a US-based low-code software company that sells to enterprises. So in my day-to-day, I create demos and prototypes for sales teams, and I manage a global team of UX designers and front-end developers. And today I wanted to talk about inclusive design. Okay. Oh, see, that's the problem. Sorry, I can't go back. So, okay, sorry about this. Wait, I'm trying to break my mouse is back. What is inclusive design? So this pretty much sums it up. It addresses accessibility, age, culture, economic situation, education, gender, geographic location, language, and race. So this can be applied to your application, your product, or your life, really. I find it helpful to think not just of inclusion, but also of exclusion. So thinking about who you're including, but also who are you excluding when you're designing your product or your prototype. So why does this matter? Again, another issue with, so why does this matter? I don't believe that you can get to perfect on this. I think it's impossible to make 100% inclusive application or 100% inclusive anything. But the more we think and consider it and strive toward that inclusion, then I think we're in a better place. So in the next 8 months or so, no, 8 minutes. So in the next 8 or 6 minutes or so, I wanted to talk to you about some simple things we can do. So also like why this matters. Sorry, again, this is my timing being off. So it's really about belonging, and that belonging bringing that trust, and that trust is building relationships, which is like so crucial for your demo and your prototype and anything in the sales environment is creating that relationship. So who's in the audience? Before I get into specifics, like anything, anything we build or design, the first thing you need to do and consider is who's the audience for that demo or that application. So it's similarly, the first step in inclusive design is to recognize the different groups within that audience. So maybe they're parents, or they're divorced, or they've got kids, they're veterans. They're people who've had a good morning or people who've had a bad morning, people, Christians, Muslims, people in wheelchairs, people who don't want to be on camera. But, the bottom line is we actually don't really know any of that. And it's dangerous to assume that we do know that. So 5 points I'm going to go through today because we've only got limited time. Accessibility, age, gender, race, and culture. So hopefully we'll get through it all. Accessibility first. So first, accessibility. For demos and prototypes, typically we don't really worry too much about following, all the strict guidelines because, this is a demo environment and hopefully they're not going deep in on the code. But it doesn't mean that you shouldn't consider this. And, the amount of impairments or limitations that the folks on your, the stakeholders might have. So it's important to consider the format and the medium of your demo. In the environment I work in, we're often presenting these things like on a screen like this in a remote kind of atmosphere, but increasingly we're starting to do this now in conference rooms where you've got like long tables and a screen at the end. So, we might present the screen like this, this is part of the interface for Pega, where we're showing a bit of code and a bit of things that are going on in the background. And, I'm looking at this screen right now and I can read it and I can see all the text, and it's quite, it's not clear what's going on, but it's clear to me if this was explained to me. But, you just have to think about what this would look like to someone in a conference room who's sitting at this chair at the end here, and they're just completely unable to see that. So this is just something to just keep in mind while you're building your demos. And the same with color contrast. I think it was fashion for a while to have sort of all these sort of layered light grays. And this looks nice, but, and again, from this screen, I can kind of read what's going on. But as soon as you put this on a smaller screen in a big conference room, you're not able to differentiate anything there. Again, and sorry, and moving to, so there are varying degrees and types of color vision issues. Specifically, like my brother-in-law, he's not able to distinguish well between reds and greens. So if they had a router issue, as we all do, the slide before, I can't go back, but the slide before had, you know, the power button was green and the Ethernet one was red. And you can't really tell if you have those problems, which light is actually on. So I think, you know, the designers is obviously not something that they would consider. So somebody like that, but then also, you know, there's someone like me who can't like read anything close up without glasses on. So this is pretty much what I would see. So I wouldn't be able to tell any tech rep what was going on with my router. So, I mean, we don't typically use these kind of traffic lights in our demos, but we do use color coding for all kinds of other status symbols and things like that. So consider that as well. Like right now, you know, the good status is green, which is sort of fairly typical, but, you know, we've also put the word good in there because, you know, maybe you can't read it and maybe you don't see that color. So you're affording them that ability. And okay, next onto age. So I've got like 3 minutes left, so I'm gonna have to go through this super fast. So who are the cast of characters in your demo? You know, we try to tell stories in our demos. So you need to consider the diversity of the users. Older and younger people should be represented because older and younger people make up the workforce, just like women and Black and brown people do. Generational diversity in the workforce is here to stay, and it makes good business sense to foster that age-inclusive culture within your demo. I'm just going to move very quickly here. Next into gender, which, you know, should be an easy one for us, right? Well, you know, maybe not. So a couple of things we shouldn't do. Don't do this. This is from actually 2014. I don't know if you've seen it before, but it's basically, you know, what's killing about this is a global summit on women, and there's not a single woman there. So this launched a whole panel thing on all male panels, which is kind of interesting. But, you know, this thing still happens today. This just happened in March. International Women's Day. It was another, you know, Women's Day panel event where all the speakers were men. So just, you know, be careful, because insipidly this sort of gets into your projects. In a demo story, for example, you've got one like this, which is sort of very male centered. I mean, there's one woman in here within this whole journey. So, you know, if you're starting off that way, I'm afraid that it's just going to continue. So just think of it from the beginning. Finally, not finally, but coming up to race. So similarly, if you're only including white people in your demo personas, you're doing it wrong and immediately excluding anyone else who isn't white. So don't do this, you know, where we've got a whole panel of white people. Don't do this. I'm sorry, there's actually quite a few examples of this. You know, even your avatar images, just look where that balance really counts. Make sure that they have rich backgrounds, and don't put them in the backseat either. And culture. So this is a bit harder because it's a little broader. But our stories, and I don't think our stories can be universal. You can't talk to everyone, and culture, you know, is a tricky one. But, you know, if you're using too many sports references, for example, you know, I'm just not going to get them, and a lot of people won't get them. So just be careful about what you're doing. And then if you are specifically doing something on cultural that's like unique to you, just make sure it's explained. Similarly, you know, if you're regionally presenting something to a UK audience, but you're showing your whole, you know, e-commerce platform, for example, in dollars and with American spellings, you know, this is not going to gel and will create that that kind of mismatch of understanding, and helps to eliminate that trust. And then and use opportunities to embrace the inclusion here. This was a demo we did for a bank, but it was Pride Month, and so hey, why not? We have this sort of announcement section, which many enterprise companies are celebrating Pride this month. So yeah, let's throw that in there, and it adds, I think, a level of context, and also understanding for the stakeholders who are seeing that demo that, oh, yeah, this feels like my place. It also makes those LGBT people feel included and welcome. I was thrilled when I saw this, so this is pretty cool. So those are the 5 points I just covered super fast, and I'm over time. So finally, I think just the final point here is really just to check your biases at all times. Make a checklist if you need to, and think about who you're excluding each time that you're building those characters. We want to be really important about and aware of the biases and the impact they can have, and recognize the responsibility we all have to lower those barriers. So inclusive design makes people feel welcome, safe, and valued, and it prevents frustration and demeaning experiences. It builds trust, and it builds relationships, and I think that's why it really matters. So thank you for speeding through this with me. I really appreciate it.